Here's the long awaited pattern for this top. You're going to need a crochet hook, any size you choose, and your choice of yarn, of course. Also, stitch markers are optional, but I highly recommend them. A pair of scissors, and of course, measuring tape. You're going to start out measuring half of your bust width, which would be from one armpit to the other. And this would be the width of your first panel. And then you also need your bust height, and this would be the length of your first bust panel. Now, for your two back panels, you want to measure from the top of your bust to where you want your top to end. So you put it where you want your top to end and just measure it from the back ways, just like that. And then you also need your sleeve length to where the scrap goes on your shoulder. So it will be from shoulder blade up to however wide you want your scrap to be. So you're going to start off with a slip knot and begin chaining half of your bust width, which would be the first measurement you took from armpit to armpit. I ended up with 60 chains, but this, of course, would be um, depending on whatever your bust width is. And now you're going to go ahead and go into that third chain from the hook with a double crochet. And you're just going to double crochet all the way to the end. And you just complete that all the way to the end of the chain. And here is my last double crochet stitch. And once you're done your first row, your work should be looking something like this. And then to start on your second row, all you're going to do is chain up two and then turn your work. That chain is going to count as your first double crochet. So you're going to work your next double crochet into the next stitch and not into that first previous double crochet. Okay, and just like before, you're going to double crochet all the way down to the end. And once you reach the end, it will be the same thing again. So here I am near end. I have about 3 more stitches actually, because as you can see, we're coming on to that first chain 2. And like I said, those chain 2 do count as a double crochet. So it may be a little difficult, but you want to place a double crochet into that stitch as well. And then you chain up 2 and again, double crochet all the way to the end. And you're going to repeat this pattern as many times as you need to get the length of your bust height or however long you want the front of your top to be. So I think I stopped at about 14 rows and that's how it looks. So I'm going to put that aside and start working on my panels. Now, when doing the panels for your sleeves, it's going to be the exact same process as before with that first panel. You're just going to chain the length that you want your sleeves to be, and it should go from the top of your bust all the way back to your back where you want your top to end. And for that, I had about 50 chains. So I'm going to go ahead and count my chains to make sure it's 50. I did have to add 2 more. So I'm going to go chain those last 2 chains and then go directly into that third stitch from the hook, like I said before. And again, those chain 2 at the beginning of each row does count as a double crochet. And I'm going to chain all the way to the end like before. And once you reach the end, this is how it should be looking. Going into my last double crochet, I'm going to chain up 2 and begin my new row. Again, that double crochet does count. That chain 2 does count as a double crochet. So when you turn your work, you're going into the second previous double crochet instead of the first. Make sure you pay attention to that because that can cause an increase in your work. So for this, I did about 7 rows because I wanted my scrap to be about 3 inches wide. And here are my 2 scraps. Now I'm going to show you how to attach them. So with attaching, I counted down 20 stitches initially, but I ended up changing it to 22. So I counted down 22 stitches, and then I folded over to make sure they're even. So it should be 11 stitches on each side when it's folded that way. Now, this measurement, I didn't show it in the beginning, but this measurement will be determined by the width of your armpit. So I needed about 3 to 5 inches because it will stretch, but 3 to 5 inches for your armpit is totally fine. So that's why I needed 22 stitches, and I'm going to fold it and make sure 11 stitches is on each side. And this is where the stitch markers become very, very important. You're going to stitch off 11 stitches in between. So I have my 22nd stitch stitched off. Now I'm going to count back 11 stitches to apply another stitch marker there. This is very important. So I'm going to add another stitch marker there. And this is why I'm showing you. See, you need the width of your scrap. Fortunately for me, the width of my scrap and my armpit width happened to be the same size, so it worked out perfectly. But yeah, just pay attention to that. And then you're going to fold that over like that and attach your top, attach your scraps to the top like that. And to attach them, I ended up doing single crochets along the side of each. And now I'm just going to set up this side before I start attaching each side to make sure everything aligns perfectly. And if I need to go back and change anything, I can. I'm sure you hear my son right now. So I have already slip stitched to attach my yarn, but I just want to show you. So for every double crochet actual stitch here, you're going to single crochet around a double crochet. So let me actually demonstrate. I already did my first single crochet, so I'm going to go into the next double crochet and put it in that same, wrap around that same double crochet in the first row and do a single crochet. Now I have two, so I'm going to go to my third double crochet stitch and wrap around the double crochet in the next row. And then the fourth, I'm going to wrap around the same double crochet in that row. So for every 2 double crochet stitches, you should be wrapping around 1 row of double crochet. So here's how that looks. I have 6 double crochets and I've wrapped around 3 rows. So that's what I'm trying to say. All right, and after you've done single crocheting to attach, your work should look something like this from the right side out. And from the inside, you should see defined single crochets. Mom. So now, Mom. Hold on, baby. So now we're going to go ahead and attach the front part of the scrap. And you want to do the same thing. You're going to slip stitch to attach your yarn. And then chain up and then go right into that same stitch with a single crochet, wrapping around that first row. Pull through. There we go. And then going into the next double crochet stitch and then going into that same row of double crochet for your first 2 single crochet stitches. Now you're going to move to the second row, going in that third double crochet stitch, wrapping around that second row of double crochet stitches. And yeah, just like the first time. So I will show you how it looks again if you're getting confused. If that's too difficult for you, you actually can sew it together as well. I just did this because I didn't know where my needles were. Now that you have that stitched together, you're going to change hooks to a bigger size hook if you have one available. If not, just make sure you loosen the tension just to make sure your sleeve hole isn't too tight if you're using the same crochet hook. But I did switch to a bigger one to help with the tension. So instead of fastening off your yarn, you're going to immediately chain up 1 and then single crochet around the armhole for your top. Changing the hook is very important because you want to loosen up that tension. You don't want the sleeve hole of your top to be too tight. So if you can't change the hook, you might want to make looser single crochets. But once you reach the stitch marker, you're going to go ahead and slip stitch into that first chain to connect. Okay. That stitch was actually a little tight to say I was changing the tension. But yeah, I'm going to take that hook out and switch back to my original hook. And now to continue with the sleeve, I'm going to chain up 2 and then apply my stitch marker back. Now this will be, that'll count as a double crochet. And then I'm going to chain a third chain, and that will count as a chain 1. So 3 stitches equal a double crochet, chain 1. Turn your work, and we're going to skip that first single crochet stitch and do a double crochet into the second one, and then chain 1. Then we're going to skip that next one and do a double crochet into the following stitch and chain 1. I think you get where I'm going here. We're going to do a double crochet, chain 1 to create a mesh stitch look. And we're going to do that all the way around. So you want to make sure that you have an odd number of single crochets in your sleeve. I had 37, so that worked out for me. But yeah, once you reach that last stitch, you chain 1 and you see there's 1 stitch left, will let you know you're on the right track. And then you're gonna go ahead and slip stitch to join right into that second chain, which is why we put a stitch marker there so you can mark off the second chain. And we're just gonna slip stitch to join. Yeah, it is a little hard to get it into the chain, but yeah, you might have to do a little wiggly to get it in there. But yeah, you're gonna slip stitch to attach your yarn. And this is how your sleeve should be looking. So your sleeve length, I didn't show measurements for sleeve length, but that is totally up to you. You can make your sleeve as long or short as you like. I'm going to make mine full sleeve length, and for a full sleeve length, I did about 40 rows. But the length of your sleeve is totally up to you. Here's how it's looking now from the front as well. I kind of started to think like this is actually cute. I could probably leave it like this, but I didn't. I ended up doing a full 40 rows, which would be 39 more rows. And just to demonstrate how to get that mesh stitching again, like I said, you're going to want to chain up 3. If you have stitch markers, mark off that second chain so you know that that's the chain that you slip stitch to and not the third one. And then once you chain up 3, you turn your work. Now it gets easy because you know you're going to know each of your double crochets are going to go directly into a double crochet. So double crochet, chain 1, go directly into the next double crochet, chain 1, go directly into the next double crochet. So it gets a bit easy here. And I swear I hate doing sleeves, but mesh sleeves go by so fast. All right, and I'm finishing up my last row, and I'm going to go ahead and tie off my yarn. And this is how your sleeve should be looking. So here's my finished sleeve, and I'm going to pull it right side out so you can see it from the other side to understand why we did single crochets first. Can you see how seamless that looks? Look at it. So yeah. Now I have to go ahead and stitch the other side together and work on the other sleeve. Okay, so stitching the other side together. Here's just another look of me single crocheting the seams together. All right, now both sleeves are done. On the other sleeve, I got kind of festive and I did add picot stitches. So if you want to know how to do that, just let me know. I can go ahead and link a tutorial for you. But I think I'm going to do it all the way around, but let's work on, scrapping up the back. So I ended up applying a stitch marker to every 6 stitch for a total of 24 stitches. So your preference of how you want your back strapped up is totally up to you, but I did do every 6 stitches. And once I had everything marked off, I did a chain. For my actual scrap, I did a chain that was my body's width times 2. that's just a preference that I have when I do scraps, because I hate counting out chains while doing scraps, because I end up having like 150 to 200 chains and I don't want to count that much. So if it wraps around my body twice, then I know that's the correct size. But yeah, it's whatever length you want to do. If you want to count chains, you can count chains. I just prefer not to. So that's what I have. And I did one more and then I cut it off. And again, I couldn't find my needle, so I'm actually going to just use my crochet hook to feed the scrap through the back of the top. But yeah, I just use the crochet hook to grab the yarn and then pull it through the back of the top. And I just feed it through in like a shoestring type of style. I don't know if you have different lace up preferences, but I just feed it through like a shoestring. And this is how the top ended up looking. I'm so glad I decided to do the picot stitches because it ate, like it literally ate. Thank y'all so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Please let me know if you like this top.